Get off there. Stop. Hey, get off of there. No, get off of there. Get, get. No, Nix. Hey, get off of there. You little demon. Stop. Stop. Why are you so fired up? Hmm? Oh my God, you're so fired up. Shit. Oh my God. Can you hear me? I didn't even turn my mic off, did I? Oh my God, we're a mess. We're a mess. I left my mic up on while I'm sitting there doing all that. Hey guys, it's Ghost Queen. That was funny. Good thing I didn't say anything naughty or nasty. Because I left my mic on. And I wasn't even like being cognizant of being live. Did you hear little Nixie like moaning? And I'm like, oh my God. Oh, what a night. So you get me tonight. I'm a big mess. Didn't even do the bloody makeup. Poor Lori's been sick as a dog. She was in the ER and she has like, she's fighting an infection. And look at her here, like a trooper that she is. Oh my goodness. So, hi guys. Um, I'm trying to just be a little bit more diligent about streaming. And I'm excited because now I signed up for like the big package with this streaming software. So we get more fun little stuff. And, but I have to learn it a little bit better still, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Okay. And at least we've got now like more fun themes and stuff. And we're going to be having a website and other exciting things on the way, which I will share about another time. So, hey, Star Among Darkness. So, little Nixie, oh my goodness, is that little pup coming out of her shell and feeling very at home, okay? So, Wayne and I went, I'm going to show you because it's just too cute to not show you. I got her a little bed. Check it out. Look at her. Look at that little spoiled thing in her little bed, moaning and groaning for absolutely no reason other than I'm not spoiled enough yet. That's the only reason she's moaning and groaning. She needs to be spoiled more. Okay? So, if you're a dog owner and you like to spoil your pets like I do, but you don't want to break the bank, I have found all sorts of little ways to save money when it comes to pet care because we live in the times now where we treat our pets like they're our children. Hey, Lady Norn, and it can get expensive. It's a huge industry. Okay, so one of my most favorite stores in the world where Wayne hates to go with me because he knows how dangerous it is TJ Maxx, okay? But TJ Maxx, it has good deals on pet stuff. So I got that little bed and it is adorable for like 12 bucks, okay? Check out what else I got there for the dogs, okay? I got this for Juju. Now, Juju, her breed, Catahoula, they were bred to hunt wild boar. And I was talking to one of my adult daughters today, and my two adult daughters moved to Florida. And one of my eldest daughter posted a video of her kayaking, and this manatee comes right up to the kayak, and she's like petting it and touching it. And I'm like, what, are you trying to kill me? Like, all I've been able to think about now is like swimming and cuddling with manatees. I love manatees and I'm so jealous. I just want to go roll with the manatees like in the water. And I was talking to not the eldest, but the next one down today, and I'm like, have you swam with them yet? Hey, Dario. And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, why not? And she's like, well, because there's maybe gators in this river and, a little kid drowned and they can get stuck on the bottom and there's catfish holes. And I'm like, I'm not going to care about any of that. And I'm going to be in the water with those manatees. I'm like, it. And she was laughing her head off because she knows me and she knows I will. Anyway, so. Oh, and then she told me this story. So there are huge iguanas near where they live in Florida, okay? Everybody can fly their freak flag high in this chat. All freaks welcome. Okay, so where my daughters live in Florida, they have these huge, and I mean huge, iguanas, okay? But it turns out, I couldn't believe this when she told me this story today. It turns out the iguanas are actually like an invasive species there in Florida, so that it's legal to kill them because they're sort of destroying the environment, I guess, destroying the landscape. They're not supposed to be there and they're kind of causing a lot of damage. And there's so many of them that it is legal to kill them, okay? So my daughter was telling me the story about how she saw this huge iguana and she could tell it was very large and very old. And then, like, literally the next day, she saw it being cooked, like barbecued, and they ate it. And she was like horrified and in tears. And I mean, can you imagine me there dealing with that? I would be like in tears and causing an uproar. I couldn't stand it. I mean, I could barely listen to the story. I was horrified. I mean, I get it. It's just like the deer, I guess, in New England, but Oh, it kind of broke my heart a little to hear that story. And this one daughter of mine, my second born, she's like super sensitive like me, so she was like heartbroken. Yeah, I love manatees. Love them. I love iguanas too, though. I used to have a pet iguana. And I just can't imagine eating one. I'm like, what is wrong with people? Like, you have to eat an iguana? I mean, come on. Like, we don't have enough fucking food. Like, we're all obese in this country. Like, you don't have enough to stuff your face with. You got to eat the poor bloody iguanas, too. Anyway, so we got this for Juju. It's like, okay, so it's fire biters, fire hose tough, excuse me, for long lasting fun. So it's actually made from fire hose material. So I started off by saying Juju's breed, Catahoula, like they were bred to hunt wild boar, and she is strong. She's got a very strong jaw, and she destroys toys. So we have to look for like really, really tough ones, and this feels really, really tough. So this was $7, which is kind of actually a little high for TJ Maxx, but this same toy somewhere else would probably be like $25, right? Okay, so I got these for I got them each one, right? So they wouldn't fight, just like kids. And of course, Juju just took them both. And my friends will appreciate this. It's actually a hippo. It's a hippo. Tell me that's not cute. So I got a purple one and a red one. Hippos for them. And those were $6 each. Okay, so that's still pretty cheap. And then I got this for the precious baby. It's a little unicorn. A little pink multicolor unicorn. That was $3.99. Cheap. Hi, Linda. Thanks for coming. And then, hey, Dreama. And then I got this. This was only $2.99. It looks like a hockey puck. $3, okay? And it's rubber, and it feels really cool. Like, I would almost play with this like a sensory toy. But it feels like hard, it's pliable, but it feels good quality. And you can stuff the treats in there. Okay, you can put the treats in the hole. And, you know, it's another like chew toy slash fetch toy, whatever. And I have these I got these at this cheap pet store we have near us. They often will have like treats on clearance and stuff, and I'll get them really cheap. So I got these. Like, now these would be perfect for this toy because they're so small. And these are like small bites made with organic chicken, Play-Doh pet treats, great for training. And I like to carry I have a little like canvas treat tote bag thingy that I can hook on my belt, which is why I'm like the Pied Piper and all the dogs in the neighborhood follow me because they all know I have food. That is the secret. Okay? So look, these are like really small little treats, very tiny, but the dogs love them. They must just taste so good. It's almost like it's maybe like dried chicken or something. So that's like the perfect size. You can just put them in this little rubber thing, and then, the dogs, it keeps them occupied for a while, when, like, say you're going to stream and you don't want them to bug you, okay? And Juju's like, you got to see Juju. She knows when I say the word treat. Yeah, she's waiting. Look, she's like literally right there waiting, right next to me. Like, stop talking about it and let's just have it. So funny. So spoiled. Rotten. I'm telling you, rotten. Here, Juju, you can have the toy. All right? You want it? You want it? Huh? You ready? Oh, look what Mama got for you. It's a special toy. Oh, yes, just for you. Just for you. Because, she's struggling with a lot of jealousy right now. So I figured she should get something special. So that's our little doggy time. Then I didn't even have time to like do makeup and hair and shit tonight because I was just running late per usual. But I did pick up. Remember, I was talking about the eyelashes I got that are magnetic, but I bought a new pair because one of the ones that I had were like two that stick together. So, like, one lash goes on top of your eyelash and the other one goes on the bottom. Don't growl at her. And then one of the magnets fell off, and I like haven't even worn them yet. So I bought another pair, but it turns out it's just a magnetic lash that goes onto magnetic eyeliner, but I didn't buy the eyeliner. So today I bought the eyeliner. So this is it. It's Kiss brand. The brand is Kiss, and it just says magnetic eyeliner. So that's what it looks like. Got it at Walgreens. If anybody's interested in trying that, I'll probably try to wear them tomorrow, and I'll tell you how they go. Okay? Hey, Mary, that's okay, honey. Don't worry about it. So that's that. Then, of course, I I was I can't go through TJ Maxx without like looking at the clothes. I mean, I'm only human. So I got this. It was like $12. It was really cheap, and it's enormous. It's this big, fluffy camo fleece, and it's reversible. It's like a jacket, and it's got like pockets. But this is perfect for me for like wearing around the house. Like, see what I have on now is like a fleecy, fake fur sort of. It's like a pale pink thing, but I wear a lot of a lot of this type of stuff in the house because he keeps it like a meat locker. It's always so cold in here. So I'm like always, I'll be wearing like long johns, like a full set, and then like two other layers, just so I'm not freezing. And then I got this. This was on clearance for $16. Okay, and it's Max Studio, which is a brand that I love from way back. It's a pleated black skirt. This is a little conservative for me, but it's good for, fancy dinners or if I have to, do something. It's kind of got a little bit of a shine to it, you can see, but very pleated. Um, Very pleated skirt. Just so for like, if I have to dress up. And then I got this, excuse me, for $4.50. Okay, you can't really knock that. And it's this adorable little shirt. The brand I don't really recognize, Shine Star. It's not anything I know, but it's kind of like metallic, and yeah, it's just a cute little top, but it's pretty. I don't know if you can kind of see there. It's got the metallic stripes, and yeah, $4.50. How can you do? You can't go wrong. So that's it. That was my little TJ Maxx run. We went into Best Buy. Wayne's after getting this 300 something dollar drone, which he can't talk himself into buying yet, and which I know he's going to buy, but he hasn't bought it. And then I was looking at RPG, mice. I like the ones that you can like, sort of rest your thumb in, but I didn't get one yet. And I've been looking at those RGB strips too that have like the remote control. You can change the colors and everything. I got all sorts of ideas for those. So that's that. Shopping, shopping, shopping. And then I started off the morning. I went to see my neighbor because the puppies and the mama dog were all here this morning. So I went and visited with her and her deaf son, and I was trying to sign with him, and I'm realizing I've lost so much of my vocabulary with sign language that I wasn't being able to remember anything. So I put an app on my phone. I looked at a few sign language apps, and some of them are pretty shitty. So I did a quick search on what's a good sign language app, because basically what I wanted, I already know like how to sign, and I know all about the grammar, and I know the basics. I just kind of wanted like a dictionary, and preferably without paying for one, where I can just look up a sign that I've just forgotten, you know. So I did find one that I settled on, which was, where is it? Um, it's called Sign School. Um, and this is what it looks like on my phone. And it had a good dictionary. And that's basically what I was after. So, like, you can see here, like, it's got so many things in the dictionary. So it's got phrases and words. And then if you click on one, like here's afternoon, okay, it shows you a little video. And then you click play, and it just gives you the sign. It actually shows you the sign, which is cool. That's exactly what I was looking for. So it was perfect, and it was free, so that I can converse with her son. Her son is 15, and as I say, he's deaf. So, um, Lady Norn, I totally go to TJ Maxx for the purses too. I didn't even go to the purse and luggage area or the pajama area tonight or the cosmetic area or like the shoes or the socks or the home goods or the workout gear. Like all that side of the store I just avoided because I'm like, I'll be here all night. And I was sweating because all the stores here are like too hot. And and it would have been an expensive trip. So I just didn't even look. But I know, like, with Valentine's Day coming, it's the love month. You got all the heart stuff and everything, and it's like everything I love. Oh, this is the last TJ Maxx thing. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot this. So we get up to the counter to pay, right? No, I was like singing the song they had playing on the radio, and I'm like doing it, like I'm singing and like dancing to the checkout girl, trying to make her laugh. And out of the corner of my eye, I see something, and I was like, like my head spun around like The Exorcist, and I was like, what is that? It was it was, I kid you not, it was the largest stuffed animal that I have ever seen. And it was a fucking unicorn. I'm like, how much is that? It was enormous. And Wayne was like, oh God. Like, here we go. I'm going to show you a picture. It was an enormous unicorn. And unfortunately, it had a big sign in front of it that said, sold. And you know what? How much you were selling that thing for? $80. Okay, $80. Now, if you know anything about big stuffed animals, which I happen to, that's cheap. That's like next to nothing. Okay, it was originally like probably almost $400. All right, and it was fucking sold. They're like, oh yeah, we've had this here since Christmas, and I'm like, oh well. If my boyfriend wasn't so scared of this store, I would have saw it and bought it. Because it was awesome. All right, let me show you a picture. This thing was so awesome. I would have just put it right here next to me for when I'm streaming. It was so cool. And it was literally, it was huge, okay? So this is the unicorn. Look at it. Look at the size of it. A big white unicorn with a pink mane. Oh, I can't. Here, I can turn the light off. Look at it. So cool. Oh my God. $80. I totally would have scooped that thing up. I missed my chance. Oh, really? That's cool, Lady Norn. Yeah. Well, I went to Northeastern and I studied American Sign Language and Deaf Studies, but that was, many moons ago, like over 20 years ago. So I've lost a lot of my sign. I was planning on becoming an interpreter. So I'm still losing my voice and very froggy. Forgive me. I'm I'm not even going to talk about it because I just want it to heal and I'm not going to focus on it. So that's that. So still dealing with a little bit of drama, not a ton, but a little bit. I noticed most of the people who left bullying comments on my videos deleted them because they're cowards, I guess, and they don't want people to know that they're bullies. And then, but I'm still dealing with this one particular woman who, I don't know what she thinks she's doing, but she's very confused, and I'll deal with it. That's all I'm going to say about that. And I've got, I like all sorts of weird stuff. Look at, I just found this like clip to my shirt. It's like a fuzzy hair clip that matches my weird fuzzy. So this is like my around the house clothes. I didn't like even get at all sort of done up for the stream tonight. I'm in my casual clothes. Not that I'm ever that dressy. Yeah, that's fine, Mary. I know you've been having a rough time lately. Um, Two of my mods are both dealing with some illnesses at the moment. So, good energy out to them. Um, what else was I going to say? I ordered a new wig. Excuse me. It's like, the one I have that's black and blue, and it's like that asymmetrical type bob. It's like that, but it's pink. So that should be cute. Oh, that's Wayne. I was like, what do I hear? But that's Wayne. And what are you chewing on, Peanut? Excuse me. I'm sorry I keep clearing my throat. Please forgive me. Hey, you. Don't chew that. I'm going to just give Nyx. Nyx is wide awake. Oh, she's chewing on my boomerang from New Zealand. No, girl. That's not. Oh, you demon. You are the Satan incarnate. Here, have this instead. Little problem child. All right, I just gave her her little doggy toy since she was chewing on my boomerang. A friend of mine was a boat builder, and he was over there for the America's Cup race, and he got me a boomerang, and it's wood, and it actually broke in half. I think one of the kids did it. So I have it like over in my project area to glue, and of course she found it. I'm telling you, the things she can find over there, it's crazy. Okay, so I'm diving straight back into The Sims tonight for a little bit. I didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of the research for the Sims case. Yes, I know. Isn't that cool? Yeah, that was going back quite a few years now, but it's sentimental. I'm just keeping an eye on her. She's just in the dog toy basket, which is fine. I'm just making sure she doesn't get into anything. Because I've caught her like chewing wires and stuff. Hey, where are you going? Hold on. Excuse me, guys. I got to make sure she doesn't go to the bathroom. 1 second. So sorry, so sorry. But the less pee and, she hardly ever poops. I think she's only pooped in the house since we've got her in here, I don't know, 2, 3 times. Excuse me. She really didn't poop. She doesn't poop a lot, but she does pee quite a bit. So she's a puppy. She's learning. She's pretty good. Like, she'll do it on the puppy pads. We have puppy pads, which if you get a puppy, get the puppy pads because they're very helpful and it's a lot less mess to clean up. And she pretty much will go on the puppy pads. She's pretty good about that. Anyway, I just had to let her out real quick. So, forgive my voice. I know it's awful. I'm so sorry. Now, so I caught you up last night on this website. I did it for Jody. And, so what I was saying before I got distracted by the evil little dog is I was in the car with Wayne and we were talking about the Sims case, and I quickly was sort of researching some stuff on my phone that I had looked at before on Reddit concerning this case, and saw that Vernon, I think, is now I think he's about 74 years old. And I just feel like I know from my research already that he keeps an eye on anything that is really shared online about this case. So I wouldn't be surprised if he hasn't found my channel and me talking about this case, because don't forget, I did try to contact him quite a while back. This was probably about a year ago I tried to contact him. And I asked him if he'd be interested in going to visit the graves with me in Mississippi and paying his respects, and he didn't respond. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's aware that I'm talking about the case and everything, and if he, and if he's not yet, I bet he will at some point stumble across this, because he seems to keep his finger on the pulse of the case. And I think he's going to confess before his time's up on this plane. Let's put it that way. And I would just like to put the offer out there. Vernon, I'd be more than happy to interview you so that you can tell your story. I know you were interviewed for the documentary, but trust me, I'm a different kind of interviewer. And I would love to talk to you and find out what you have to say. Whether that's talking about your reasons why, or talking about your innocence if you're still maintaining your innocence. The offer is there. So, moving along. I'm going to be getting now into the comments on I Did It for Jody's blog about the Sims case. And to me, this is where it really started to get a little interesting. And I'm going to eventually be talking about some other posts online where I've seen Vernon posting on Reddit, etc. And he certainly wasn't shy about, reaching out and talking about the case. It just seems to me, and it seems like he just was trying so hard to clear his name. Now, that doesn't make sense to me, because he, other than the locals, let's say in Tallahassee, I don't think anybody would have really been talking much about him. But he seems, I mean, to still be so focused on the case at the age of, 70, to me that smacks of guilt. It smacks of guilt and paranoia and anxiety. And yeah, I think he's worried that either somebody saw something and they're going to eventually come forward, or or you know, I guess that's probably the main part. Or somebody's going to pick up on something that was missed. I think it seems, just, I don't know. I try to put myself in his position. If I were innocent and I really didn't have anything to do with it, and it was like that many years later, I can't see me really still being that focused on it and watching everything posted about it. I mean, by the age of 70, you've had a pretty big, long life and done a lot of things, I would imagine. And, that was from when he was like, what, 17 or something? So, like, I don't think about anything from when I was 17, you know what I'm saying? And I'm only 51. So, why is he still thinking about this so much if he had nothing to do with it? It doesn't make sense to me. And I just don't understand it. So, yeah. Okay. My notes are very, or not my notes, but my printouts of all the comments are a little disorganized, and I'm going through them, but I'm not really focusing. So, let me see here. I thought I printed them out in order, but it's not seeming like they are. Give me a second while I just paw through them and see if I can find a little bit of order here. Let me see if I can see where they start. You know how I'm going to do this? I'm going to look at the blog real quick. Give me 2 seconds, guys. Talk amongst yourselves while I just look at this real quick. I'm going to turn the mic off for a minute. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Okay. So, I just have a few pages that somehow, when I was printing them out, they got out of order. But I think I should be able to work it out as I go through these. And I don't even know if I'll get through them all tonight because there's so many. Okay? Do I have my glasses? Where are my glasses? Oh, they're there. Okay. All right. So I'm going to dive into the comments. No, sorry, Linda. I just had you all on hold for a minute while I got a little organized here because I have a whole stack of printouts from this blog. Now, it's in the comments where everything got very interesting. Okay? Because Vernon comments so much on this blog. All right? So, there are a lot of funny comments, and I'm not going to read every single one. I'm just going to sort of skim through them and comment on the ones that seem sort of really relevant. Now, like, there's funny ones people put, like, oh, laughing out loud, I came across this blog when I was Google searching for a new way to kill my Sims. The article was intriguing, but this comment made my day, laughing out loud. And it's kind of hard to tell sometimes which comments go with the original comments and whatnot. But um, I think I'm just going to skip ahead. I'm only going to mention the comments from the people that actually lived there and maybe knew some of the people at the time, and then Vernon's comments, which are pretty relevant, and if I see anything else. Okay. So in 2015, somebody posted, I'm not going to say her name, but she said, I was friends with Joy. My friend Veronica and I were going skating that night at the Armory. We invited Joy to go with us and spend the night afterwards. Now, you remember Joy was 12 at the time that she was murdered. Her mom and dad said no because she had to go to church the next morning. It is one of those if only. So sad. I still think about her every so often and wish things could have been different. It did truly change the way people in Tallahassee saw life, and an event that will always be in our minds and hearts. I only pray that one day they will solve this horrible event and finally get the closure that the family deserves. Um, the more that I research this case, the more that I do feel like it was probably a little bit of a cover up. Now, this was a very interesting comment, and it caused a lot of controversy amongst people who are interested in the case. Somebody posted on January 12th, 2016 at 2:14 a.m. I saw you under the street light. Hi, Vernal. um, Now, Vernon Fox posted and said, Mary Charles LaJoy was trying to use her psychic powers to claim the reward. My scheduled alimony payments had ended and she needed money. It did not work because Larry knew that she and I were at a lover's lane at the time of the murders. She let me out of her car on Gibbs near Stiles at 11:07 p.m. on the night of October 22nd, 1966. And I can testify to that in court because I looked at the clock just before I got out of the car. I started walking home and a Dodge Valiant with 3 white men in it stopped, opened the rear passenger door for me to get in, and then realized that I was not the man they were looking to pick up, and then drove towards Tharp on Gibbs. I can testify to seeing that in a court of law, and there will be no evidence to the contrary because it is true. That happened at around 11:10 p.m. Also, I arrived home at 11:15 that night. I looked at the clock on our stove, so I can also testify to that. It is not possible to refute that in a court of law because it is true. These facts alone make it impossible to establish even the most basic case against either Mary Charles LaJoy or Vernon B. Fox Jr., let alone both of us. Nobody recalls that Dr. Fox was an assistant warden and prison psychologist at the State Prison of Southern Michigan. He has no experience in law enforcement, crime scene investigation, or detective work. He was a corrections and treatment expert. People know he was a criminologist, but do not remember his area of expertise. That's Vernon, who a lot of people think is one of the suspects. And he essentially goes through all the comments, and anything that even slightly irritates him, he comments. Back to the poster. So, to the comment, I saw you under the streetlight looking at the house. I know you remember. Vernon responded to it. I had no idea of the meaning of this comment. It seems that Mary Charles made statements that I did such stuff. It is not true and has no basis in fact. The undercover dog patrols would have caught anyone who roamed our neighborhood at night. Nobody was caught roaming our streets at night. Nobody stood under a streetlight. It is just made up nonsense. Perhaps a character in a TV show did such stuff. People treat this like I was a character on a TV show. I am not. I am a real person. If I could slip into your house at night through locked doors, murder everyone in the house, and slip away without a trace like a super criminal, then people would be more cautious about what they say. But their actions tell us that nobody believes that I am such a dangerous criminal. You are a character, if nothing else. Now, a female poster says in 2016, I lived on the corner of Gibbs and Hagen. I was home that night with the maid and my baby sister. We all heard the gunshots. My father was Sergeant Perry Lawrence Jr., former Leon County Sheriff Department. I have compiled a list of interrogatories for you since you decided to open your big fat mouth after 50 fucking years of silence. And that is my first question, Mr. Intelligent. What you running your mouth for now? Where have you been for the past 50 years, smartass? What the hell do you know about the goddamn mafia? Tell it, start talking, we hear ya. So, Vernon, suddenly had this story about three white men in a car, and he thinks it's the mafia and all this weird shit. And it does seem like he remembers details like really fucking clearly from a very long time. Who remember? That would be like, okay, I'm only 51, so I can't say I would remember 50 years ago, but that would be like me in 10 years, let's say, saying I really like accurately remember shit from when I was 10. No, it's not going to happen. Now, here Vernon is commenting about his grandson's records. I'm not even going to read that because I really don't think that is relevant. I agree with the guy. I Did It for Jody, who wrote the original blog. I don't think his grandson's life has anything to do with Vernon in this case. So I'm not even going to read these comments that are connected to the grandson who's deceased. I don't think it's relevant. I will read this part, though. The night of October 22nd, 1966, Mary Charles, yes, it is pronounced as if it was one name, picked me up at the nearby park. My parents did not allow me to see her. We went to a movie and then to a lover's lane where we had sex in the front seat of her mother's car. She drove up Tharp Street and turned north on Gibbs. She let me off at Styles a little after 11 p.m. and I started walking home. I had walked about a half a block when I saw a car on Gibbs that was about 4 blocks north from me. It came slowly towards me. When it got close to me, the 4-door Valiant stopped and the right rear door was opened for me to get in. I saw 3 white men in the car, but it was dark and I was frightened. Someone said, "Wrong one, not him." The door closed and the car drove away. I could not have identified anyone. I walked on home. The next morning, an investigator spoke to me in our living room. I told him my story and told him what clothes I was wearing that night. I offered to give him those clothes, but he declined. I was very afraid that my dad would find out that I was having sex with Mary Charles. A few days later, I took a polygraph test and I answered every question truthfully. Some of the test questions were about stealing goods from stores, and others were about taking money that didn't belong to me. I truthfully answered no to those questions. I did not know that these were supposed to be lies, but they were not, because they could not see any difference among my answers. The lie detector could not tell that I told the truth to every question they asked. The test was invalid. So, in other words, what he's saying is the polygraph was inconclusive, which isn't necessarily a good sign for him. Here's what happened. A hit team of 3 killers and one driver drove north on Gibbs at 10:30 p.m. Let the 3 armed killers, now how does he know they were armed? That's my first question. um, and these exact times. At 10:30 p.m., let the 3 armed killers out of the 4-door Dodge Valiant at the end of the backyard of 644 Von Seal. The men walked across the grass to the Sims front door. The door was unlocked and they just burst in and gained control. How the fuck does he know this? How could he possibly know this? It's like he's writing a book here. They took Mr. Sims to the bedroom and killed him. Then they took the girl in there and killed her. I bet it was a single shot behind the right ear, pointed towards the center of the brain, the cerebellum. That would be the mark of a professional hit. A neighbor heard screams at about 10:45 p.m. That would have been Mrs. Sims fighting for her life. 2 shots subdued her, and the final shot behind the right ear towards the center of the brain. Who talks like this? The fact that nobody heard shots says that the hitman used a .38 revolver with a silencer. The other men were armed with similar weapons. How the fuck does he know this? The 5 shots fired indicates that the hitman carried a 6-shot revolver with the hammer resting on an empty chamber while the weapon was holstered. Also, no brass was found at the scene, a sure clue that a revolver was used. No gun was found because the professional men took their weapons with them to whatever city they came from. At 11 p.m., 2 of the 3 men met the driver on Gibbs as scheduled. The 3rd man was staging the crime scene for the cops. It took more time than planned. Again, how does he know that? They went north out of the neighborhood and circled back, going south on Gibbs. They were looking to pick up the 3rd killer, but they found me on Gibbs near Stiles by mistake. I was home before they circled back around and found the man who staged the scene. I am thankful to be a suspect. It saved my life by making it unnecessary to hit me too. I am alive today because of it, and it has caused me no problems in finding jobs or ladies to love me. Ooh, he's a ladies' man. See, this is not normal, people. This is not normal. I couldn't identify those men then, and I can't identify them now. My dad never allowed guns in his house. I never had any access to a gun. I was never at the Sims house, and they were never in mine. I do not know them, and they did not know us. Well, I don't think that's true. Very hard to have a silencer on a revolver. It wouldn't work because of the gap near the cylinder. The only revolver I know of that is capable of a silencer is an 1895 Nagant. That is a 7.62 caliber, not a .38. Whew! He always has a lot to say. Continuing on. See, all right, after just reading all that, I'm going to say this. A good liar, from my experience and what I've noticed about liars, a good liar will always mix in some truth with their lie. And to me, it kind of sounds like that's maybe what he's doing here. So a lot of people are saying 3 Hitman is crap. And they're just challenging him on this story that he offered. And again, it's a very detailed story. How could he come up with all that? You know, that's just him analyzing. That's just, it doesn't seem normal to me. Um, Again, just sort of people challenging him. Here he says he's responding to somebody's comment, and he says, I did not do it. Unlike you, I post using my real name. There was nothing but grass between my bedroom window and the Sims driveway and front door. There was no banana tree in our backyard. That was on the side yard next to the TV antenna. If I wished to look at the Sims house, I could look out the picture window of my bedroom. There was no place to hide in our backyard, only grass. So he had a picture window in his bedroom that looked upon the Sims residence. He would have often seen that little girl outside. Just saying. All three of those girls. So once again, he continues on. 4 men were sent after Mr. Sims. 1 driver to drop them off in my backyard and come back to pick them up at 11 p.m. and 3 men to gain entrance quickly and overcome the loaded shotgun that Mr. Sims kept because he was afraid of such an attack. Mr. Sims was better prepared for an attack than most people are today. He would have been better prepared if he had carried a pistol. If the third hitman wore dark clothes and was a new member of the team, then he could have resembled me enough to cause the mistaken identity. It was a dark night and I was in the shadow of that large tree between Gibbs and the sidewalk which I was on. I was not in the full light of the headlights. I was at the side of the car when they opened the passenger side back door for me. At 11 p.m. on schedule, left the neighborhood. I'm sorry, I'm reading out of line here. I was at the side of the car when they opened the passenger side back door for me. The missing team member needed more time to complete his task. The other 2 joined the driver at 11 p.m. on schedule, left the neighborhood, and returned 5 minutes later to pick him up. His job was to set the crime scene up to look like a sex crime. 1 man was a specialist on gaining entry quickly through locked doors. How would he know all this? He was a 17-year-old boy. 1 man was an efficient killer who knew how to destroy a brain. And 1 man had studied the area, its roads, escape routes, and was the driver. He knew that we could not see a car on Gibbs dropping men off at the end of our backyard. Dark clothing would make it nearly impossible to see them approaching the Sims house through the grass in our backyard. The car was probably a rented car from the airport. The game and fair would have given plenty of cover for that. Mary Charles had dropped me off and continued up Stiles towards her home, and I walked north on Gibbs towards my home. Mary Charles could not have seen that car or its headlights. I was slightly worried that they would find the jackknives that I had lost as a kid camping in the area of the Stiles pond. Probably what he killed them with. I was worried that they might find the large hunting knife that I had lost there years earlier. Probably what he killed them with. But there could be no identifying marks on those knives, and certainly there would be nothing to connect them to the Sims murder because I had lost them years before the murders. Probably not. You were almost right about the polygraph. See, he's almost giving his alibis before he's been accused. Do you see what I'm saying? Just in case they find those knives. Here, he said it. Why they're there. He lost them years before. You were almost right about the polygraph. The chest strap was no problem. I could not stand the pain caused by the blood pressure sensor on my left arm. In 1963, I had an operation on my left arm to give me better use of my left hand. See, all right, I have to interrupt for a minute. It almost seems like Vernon is sort of arrogant. You know, it's almost like he's proud of himself that he's gotten away with it and led this full life. You know, he got away with this, murdering 3 people. He led a full life. But somewhere deep down inside, I think he wants to be recognized for his work. And that's what all this is about. That's my theory. He's not getting the attention that he feels he deserves. That's my theory. Okay, let me continue on. The nerve, sometimes called the funny bone, in my left elbow was moved to a position which came under the blood pressure cuff. I could not stand the pain, and I told them that I would not do the test with the arm cuff. Just as I was about to leave, they told me that they had a pressure cuff that worked on the hand. They put it on my hand, and I was okay. Everything that I said while hooked up to the machine was true. They did not know me well enough to make up a question that I was required to lie on, to say no to, which would give them the baseline of my reaction to telling a lie. Since I never lied on the test, it was invalid. These tests cannot be used in court to support my claim that I do not lie, cheat, steal, or murder. They cannot be used against me either. The only purpose is to fish for statements that can be used against me. There are always witnesses to testify about your statements, but lie detector test results cannot be used in court by either side. The FDLE knows how to get in touch with me. They know that I have never fired a .38 handgun. They know I was never in the Sims house. They know that I have never had any relationship with any of the Sims. They know that I spent my night at the Starlight, the Woodville Tavern, the American Legion in Quincy, Tallahassee, Thomasville, and other towns. I usually had sex with older women and barmaids, most of them not married. I had sex frequently with Mary Charles, and I married her. I was never sexually fixated on that ugly little Sims girl. That seems really fucking hostile. That seems like a really hostile statement to say about a murdered 12-year-old girl. I never paid any attention to her. I only know what she looked like from that ugly picture in the paper. That seems a little hostile. And also, like, he's a Lothario, like, he's the type of guy that only goes for pretty girls, not ugly little girls. Like, it's just creepy. That's a weird thing to say. Just making note of it. And everybody did. Okay. Perhaps it didn't do her justice. I don't know. My DNA, and it's not very compassionate either, just saying. My DNA could have been found in Mary Charles that night and in Odessa the night before. See what I mean? He's a Romeo. Doesn't have any trouble getting Kitty. Larry Campbell was not interested in the truth about the Sims murder. He only wanted to see my body cramp, twist, jerk, and smoke as the electric current cooked my body alive. You are just like him. To hell with the truth. Let's fry Vernon and not mention his name or pay any attention to the evidence, which shows that he was not involved. I know you lied about seeing me that night. Give me your real name and address. Some night we can sit down and talk about it. Sincerely, VBF Jr. This guy wants to be famous. That's what I think. I think he'll confess before he dies. Now, somebody wrote this comment, and they wrote it under the name Friend of Sims. Vernon, you are the only person that has described Joy Sims as ugly. The only person. Well, I take that back. You're the only person to say such a thing besides your former wife, Charlie. Did Joy not want to talk to you? Did she avoid you? Did she spurn you? Was she creeped out by you like the other little girls in the neighborhood that knew you watched them while they played outdoors? Because what you say about her is horrible. No normal person would say that about a child who was brutally murdered, stabbed, and left exposed as she was. You must have really hated her. Either you hated her or you are very, very sick. No other suspect said anything hateful like that. I think that is very telling. Why would gangsters kill this family? Did Mrs. Sims hit the wrong note on the piano at church one day? Did Dr. Sims forget to give a waitress her tip? What did they do to anyone? You and your girlfriend seem to be the only people that had a problem with the Sims. Charlie's disdain for them is evident from her video interview. Yours is evident from your comments about an ugly little girl not worthy of your interest. You say here you didn't know the Sims, yet you claim Dr. Sims ran over your dog. People remember you being upset about that. Do you remember that? And Vernon replied, the fantastic lies that you believe are amazing. You are wrong. People do not remember me being upset that Mr. Sims ran over my dog. I never claimed that Mr. Sims ran over my dog. I never told anyone that I was upset or angry about Mr. Sims running over my dog. I was neither upset nor angry at Mr. Sims running over my dog. I never thought that Mr. Sims ran over my dog. I know that Mr. Sims did not run over my dog. Do you know why? The answer is simple enough for you to understand. I never had a dog. It could be that Mr. Sims was killed because he was a witness in a secret NCIS investigation into a Navy cold case. It could be that professional gamblers caught him cheating them at blackjack by using his computer skills. It could be that federal witness protection failed to conceal whatever he was about to reveal to them. Perhaps he accidentally discovered some corruption in state government while doing his computer work. Maybe one of the law enforcement people who left their fingerprints at the scene killed him and came back to the scene later to cover his tracks. The Justice Department, the FBI, and NCIS were not involved in the investigation. None of them talked to me about it. Larry Campbell talked to me once, the day after the murders, and I offered to give him the clothes that I wore that night. He was not interested in checking my clothing for blood or other evidence. He refused my offer. There are a number of possibilities that were ignored in the effort to find evidence against me while ignoring the collection of actual physical evidence at the scene and in the neighborhood. Nobody asked a judge for a search warrant to find out if I had a .38 or a bloody knife in my house. After nearly 50 years of failing to find evidence against me, one could come to the reasonable conclusion that there is no such evidence because I was not involved. They have to find evidence that the suspect was at the scene. They have to find evidence that the suspect had a .38 handgun with which to shoot a .38 slugs into the victims. It would be good if the slugs matched the gun. They have to find evidence that the suspect was not somewhere else. There is no such evidence because I was not involved. Sincerely, VBF Jr. So, this goes back and forth between the two of them. I'm not going to continue reading Friend of the Sims. If you really want to read all of it, once again, I'll leave a link in the description and you can go and check it out. He's challenging Vern on several different points. I'm going to read Vern's replies just because that's primarily what I'm focused on. Any questions thus far? It almost sounds like he's maybe schizophrenic or something. Anybody think that? Let me take a quick vape. Okay, this is how he explains the ugly little girl comment. Mary Charles's quote from the Larry Campbell tape, "How could he be interested in that ugly little girl?" came from an unfortunate remark that I made to her in the student center at FSU. We saw that bad picture in the Democrat of her looking like an innocent virgin. Don't most 12-year-olds look like innocent virgins because most 12-year-olds are innocent virgins? That's a weird thing to say. Just saying. It was a poor picture to be sure. My comment, "Now that's an ugly little girl," did not actually refer to the picture of her. It referred to the punchline of an insensitive joke about a hillbilly dad explaining to his son what a virgin was. There was a hillbilly family which practiced incest, but no family member would have sex with the ugly little 7-year-old sister. So the dad explained that a virgin is an ugly little 7-year-old girl like his sister, and then his son understood exactly what a virgin was. It began as a stupid, uncaring remark between intimate people and was expected to remain a private joke between us. It was never intended to be public, but Mary Charles used it in the interview with Larry Campbell. She used it as an attack on me, but most people did not understand that it was just more of her attack on me. Me repeating that foul and sensitive remark is unjustifiable, and I apologize for it. It was stupid and irresponsible. I regret any hurt that this old joke has caused. This is just really weird explanations. Really, really strange. When I left her, Mary Charles's physical attacks on me stopped. So he's claiming he's a victim of domestic abuse also. But the verbal attacks did not. So that could be, setting himself up as a future defense also, is what I'm wondering. But the verbal attacks did not. The last physical attack against me or my property happened at my workplace after I moved to an apartment by myself and started the petition for dissolution of marriage. She did not know the location of my apartment, but she knew where I worked. She came to my work and broke all the windows out of my car with a heavy iron crowbar. Then she took my gas cap off and placed a lighted match in the gas filler neck. It was fortunate that the car did not explode. The match just burned out in the gas filler neck and left a charred image that remained for years. That was a 1 in a million stroke of luck. That interview with Larry Campbell was her last attack on me, but you and the others maintain the attacks on me. I will reply again to some of your other comments at a later date. Enjoy your 4th of July weekend. I had nothing to do with The Sims. Yeah. Okay. Then, literally, the next, I don't know, like on July 5th, he's back at it. This is back in 2016. Okay, I will tell you again. There was no banana tree in the backyard of 644 Von Sill Avenue. I will attempt to reconstruct the details of Mary Charles's psychic visions of the killer lurking in the banana tree. First of all, the banana is not a tree. It is a clump of plants which form a circle. The trunks of the tree are compact parts of the leaves. Here is my idea of the psychic vision that Mary Charles had. And then he types out in capital letters, reconstruction of Mary Charles's psychic vision. The killer hid in the circle of plants that formed the banana thicket. He trampled the small lilies and got the beggar lice stuck to his canvas shoes and pants legs. The killer went into the Sims house, leaving a trail of beggar lice on the rug, the bedspread, and the clothes of the victims. He tied up the victims while holding a .38 gun on them. He killed them. He stabbed the little girl after she died, which explains why there was little blood in the rug under her, and tried to make the scene look like a sex crime. He went back to the banana hideout to watch for the arrival of the other sisters and the arrival of the ambulance. He left the scene before the police arrived. Canine dogs tracked the killer to his banana hideout and then could not track him anymore of unknown reasons. The crime scene investigators collected the beggar lice from the crime scene in packets. They also collected beggar lice seeds from the banana hideout and the clothes of all the suspects. DNA of the collected seeds from the crime scene matched the DNA of the seeds collected from the banana hideout. The DNA of the seeds from one suspect's clothes also matched the DNA from the seeds at the crime scene, which placed that suspect at the scene of the crime. Tests of gunshot residue from his hands and arms showed that the suspect had fired the murder weapon because it matched the gunshot residue from the hair of the victims near their fatal contact wounds. Please remember that this is a fictional reconstruction of what Mary Charles may have told Larry Campbell. I have not seen the video, and these are only guesses at what Mary Charles may have told Larry Campbell. Why you should know that the above fantasy is not reality. There are many problems with this idea. There was no banana thicket in the backyard of 644 Von Sill. There were no beggar lice collected anywhere. There was no police report of canine dogs tracking the killer to a banana thicket. There are no investigative photos of the banana thicket. Let me tell you how I know that Mary Charles could not tell reality from her psychic visions, things she was told and things she saw in TV shows, or things she just made up. There are other instances of police contact with Mary Charles, including an arrest for attempting to hit a policeman with the car she was driving, but this one is relevant here. One of the times that the Jacksonville police chased a naked Mary Charles down Myra Street in Jacksonville, caught her, and took her to a hospital for Baker Act evaluation, she was found to have had an overdose of psychoactive drugs in her system. She had evidence of brain damage from repeated overdoses of drugs, and a CAT scan of her brain showed a brain injury called frontal lobe atrophy. They saw no need to keep her in the mental ward after she recovered from the drug overdose. That is why Mary Charles believed the things that she said and the things that she talked about were frequently neither real nor true. The court would order these records to be submitted in evidence by the request of the defense if there were a trial. It would show her to be an unreliable witness. Her memory of the banana thicket came from the southeast corner of her residence at 2749 Myra Street in Jacksonville, Florida. It was more than 10 years after the Sims murder and almost 200 miles away. The banana plants, the lilies, and the beggar lice were all there, and it matched the description that you gave of the banana hideout, except for the location and time period. Mary Charles was a kind and loving person to me, and I continue to love that Mary Charles very much. When she would fly into a rage, then homicidal Charlie would come out, but only for a few minutes. Then loving Mary Charles would return. As long as homicidal Charlie was dormant, I could live with and love Mary Charles. But homicidal Charlie began to come out more and stay longer. It came to the point that my love for Mary Charles was not enough. I had to think of my personal safety. That is why I left Mary Charles and gave her our house paid for, and a car paid for, and a year of alimony to give her time to learn how to get along without me. She held a master's degree from FSU and should have been able to care for herself. I had nothing to do with the Sims murders. I had nothing to do with the Sims. I did not spy on little girls. There was never a report of me going into anyone's house uninvited. Any person, well, no one's accusing you of that by saying you spied on little girls. You don't have to go into their house to spy on them. Just saying. Any person who does that should be arrested and jailed for at least 90 days. He's very specific about how long they should be jailed for spying on little girls. Just saying. In fact, none of your list of neighbors you gave ever invited me to a backyard cookout, much less to their dining room table for supper. Sounds angry. None of them even talked to me at any time. We are peace-loving people. We detest killing, even as a penalty for crimes. We believe that the people most likely to be shot by a gun is its owner or the owner's family members. Guns present more danger than protection. Remember that Mr. Sims kept a loaded shotgun in his house. I could not have shot them because there was no .38 handgun that I could have used. I was not fixated on that little girl, but Larry Campbell was fixated on me. I was lucky that he was too honorable to fake evidence against me. I did not have anything to do with the Sims or their murders. If you paid attention, that you know that I lived more than 70 years without referring to this incident. I only looked it up on the internet in February of 2016. Prior to that time, I had lived my life without any interest in finding out what people were saying. I did not suffer any bad consequences because of you talking and texting amongst yourselves, and the most a defamation lawsuit could get me would be a cease and desist order. I chose instead to reply to the lies with the truth. I had nothing to do with the Sims murder, and I never knew anything about the Sims girls. VBF Jr. Yeah, he remembers a lot. To me, it sounds like both he and Mary Charles were mentally ill, and he was probably undiagnosed. And so, were they mentally ill and also murderers? Or not? Let's continue on. He writes some more. You have never been in the Sims house. I was never in the Sims house, but years later I had supper with Bertie Nichols. Excuse me. She was the first person to purchase that house after the Sims. At that time, it was the Nichols house. The description of the living room, dining room, and kitchen does not apply to the layout of that house. Ask any of the many law enforcement people who sat in that house talking, drinking coffee, and getting their fingerprints on everything in the house. For, for the same reason, I know Mary Charles was never in that house. Somebody had asked him how he knew that Dr. Sims kept a shotgun in the house, which is a pretty good question. He says he doesn't know, he didn't know them. So how did he know they kept a shotgun in the house? Just saying. Okay, here he writes on July 7th, 2016. The banana thicket did not exist, but maybe a DA wanted to present it in court. In order to present in court the theory of the killer lurking in the banana thicket, the prosecution needs a witness to testify that they were there with the killer or were in fact the killer. The story was either made up or came from a witness or possibly made up by a potential witness. That witness either was the killer or was with the killer. If the witness was with the killer, then they are facing 3 death sentences. If that witness was only at the scene with the killer, then they could escape the 3 death sentences, but Florida law would mandate 3 life sentences, possibly consecutive, because they were at the scene of the murders committed using a gun. He continues on. In 1966, there was no banana tree in the backyard, blah, blah, blah. Since you have looked at the photos, you know that this is true. Whoever said that I hated my father was wrong. My father was as loving, as kind, and as forgiving as Jesus. That's pretty, wow. He had a dad that he's equating to Jesus. He believed in spare the rod and spoil the child, not in the vengeful sense, but in the literal sense. Spare the rod, meaning do not hit a child with anything at any time or for any excuse. Spoil the child, meaning treat children with love, forgiveness, kindness, acceptance, and help them to grow and learn. That's not what spoil the child means. No, children are not perfect and they do need guidance. But guidance is not punishment. There was never any punishment in our house. Guidance took the form of discussion on what we should have done, what is right, and how all of us could do better. Yes, my autism and okay, I didn't know he had autism. This is new to me. Yes, this is brand new to me. So, Vernon, I'm also autistic, so perhaps we should talk. Maybe I'm misunderstanding everything and you need to explain it to me one-on-one in a way 2 autistic people can understand. Yes, my autism and attention deficit disorder, which I also have, caused problems, but my dad helped me to be as successful as I was able to be. What I owe my dad could never be repaid. Yes, we disagreed on my going with Mary Charles, but he did accept her when we were married. Unfortunately for me, he was right about her. I would have done better to marry another girlfriend of mine who just happened to be as old as my mother. He would have accepted Odessa without question. He was a very good prison psychologist and he could see things about Mary Charles to which I was blind. My father loved me so much that in his dying days, with dementia having overcome his mind, he still knew me when he saw me, and he could still recite my address and phone number to his dying day. My mother did not know me for the last year of her life, but she would say to me, I have a son about your age, but he is nowhere as near as big as you. We all know that I had to divorce Mary Charles because she became too dangerous to me. My wife, Delania, went to Bayfront one December for a cough that she could not get rid of. They said it was bronchitis and sent her to our family doctor. He had some blood tests done and the results were bad. She went to the hospital for more extensive tests. A week later, they did a liver biopsy and found a small cell lung cancer. It is a type of cancer that does not form tumors, but just sends cancer cells to every organ in the body. We had her on aggressive chemotherapy and she improved some, but she died 6 weeks later. I loved my father and he was very good and kind to me. The way our family tells the story of the Michigan State Prison riots of 1952 in Jackson, Michigan, my father was the hero. The prison warden, other state officials, and the general public had the opinion that he caused the riot, which was the most costly prison riot in the world in 1952. The warden's superiors in state government, all the way up to the governor, believed that he should have been prosecuted as an accomplice in the riots. After all, he was the only prison official who could walk out into the prison yard without an armed escort and without any weapons. He was the only one who could negotiate with the riot leaders to get them to agree to a list of demands, which he wrote in green ink on white paper, the school colors of Michigan State University. The autism thing is making more sense to me now. Now that I know he's autistic, at least some of the way that he's speaking is making more sense to me. They did not capture him. He was allowed to return to his office in the prison. The prison officials wanted to blast a hole in the wall of the prison and storm in with automatic machine guns blazing. The guards would die, but they knew the danger of their job when they took it. Fortunately for my dad, the Michigan State Trooper in charge of the planned attack was able to delay it until my dad concluded negotiations with the leaders of the riots. My dad was also fortunate that the officials did not realize that the trooper in charge was a relative of ours. The demands were things that the prison officials knew my dad supported. He also agreed to serve a steak and ice cream supper after the prisoners released the captured guards and returned to their assigned cells for count. Instead of charging him or dismissing him, they allowed my dad to resign. An employment agency found a job for him teaching psychology and sociology at FSU at a time when it was still changing from Florida State College for women to a university only a little less desirable than the University of Florida. He had to promise not to start classes in criminology and corrections, and he promised not to campaign for a school of criminology. He also got a side job with the State Department of Health, but he expressed his opinion that long sentences for possession of pot were causing problems in the prison system. That pot was not a dangerous narcotic, and that legalization of pot would help the prison system. And he expressed his opinion that the death penalty was inherently wrong. You know what got him fired from his non-academic job. You know that got him fired from his non-academic job. All that was in the 50s. When my father went back to Michigan for his 50th high school reunion, his classmates would come up to him and talk to him about how awful that Deputy Warden Fox, who caused the Jackson riots, was. They did not even realize that they were talking to the man who sacrificed his ambition to become the warden in charge of a prison in Michigan in order to negotiate a settlement and save the hostages at a time when hostage negotiation was unknown. He was a hero to his family and the hostages, but a scapegoat for the rest of Michigan. That was a mouthful. So clearly Vernon feels that his father was very wronged and that he himself has been very wronged. I will say that it's not unusual for autistic people to be very superfluous, myself included. Still think he's guilty, though. Okay, moving along. How long have I been streaming? An hour and a half? I got a lot to go here. I don't think I'm going to get through all this tonight. I'm not going to focus on the other commenters because I don't really think they're the important part. Vernon is responding to somebody here when he says, Mary Charles would be easy to recognize. She had long, straight blonde hair parted in the middle, covering her back and flowing to her butt. I don't really know what that's responding to because I'm not going to read every single thing here. And then he also says, yes, I considered a defamation lawsuit, but it would be costly, and the best I could hope for was a cease and desist order to stop the comments. I decided to use my First Amendment rights to answer the lies with the truth. And then he's responding to someone here, and he says, Chris, thank you very much. Larry Campbell believed that I was his prime suspect, but he did not arrest me because there was no evidence against me. He refused to accept that the lack of evidence against me was caused by the fact that I did not do it. I have never fired a .38 handgun. I was never in the Sims house, except for years after the murders when it was the Nichols house. I was not fixated on the little girl. My taste in women is a preference for women old enough to be my mother. Not possible now, but my current girlfriend is 5 years older than me. That's not old enough to be your mother. That was a weird statement, too. Just saying. I never prowled my neighborhood looking at little girls. I liked the older redneck women at the Starlight Inn and Pool Hall, the Woodville Tavern, the American Legion next to Lake Ella, one in Quincy, and others in South Georgia, and many other beer and pool halls. I was only in a few fights over barmaids and saloon girls. They liked me and were quick to have sex with me. And the sex was always great. I was fortunate to know a little bit more about fighting than any of my opponents. Someday, he's very braggy. Someday, someone will identify the killer by matching the bullets from the crime scene with evidence from another killing. Oh, yes, your name is very special to me. My grandson's killed because of a motorcycle accident. Older brother, born in 1986, is also Chris and still alive and well. Hold on one second, guys. I'm not even going to put on the thing. I'll be right back. Oh, just got to grab something. Honey, where did the lotion go that I bought? Oh, yeah. Here it is. Sorry. Oh, look what else we picked up tonight. The new Mardi Gras guide. Isn't it pretty? I love the colors. I haven't looked at it yet. And I picked up some new lotion. Cake. Deserted Island Raw Coconut Tahitian Oil Elixir. Radiance Enhancing. Totally to die for. Cocoa Supreme Body Mousse. Okay. Ah, oh, it does smell good too. Oh, God, it smells really good. Okay. Mm. These are all other comments by other people. And I'm not saying that these comments by other people aren't necessarily relevant or good comments. It's just, I can only go so deep with all this. And really, I don't want to get into other people's comments because it's just going to go down more rabbit holes. I'd rather just focus on what Vernon has to say in these comments. Or, like I say, someone that I feel is specifically connected to the case. Once again, Vernon's responding, and this is still in July of 2016. Larry Campbell was an honorable man, and he provided Leon County with quality law enforcement during his years of service. I had nothing to do with the Sims. Repeats it over and over and over. One thing I'm going to just interject here and say that I did notice for a couple of things. First of all, yeah, I know. And I love any that smell like cake or frosting or, cotton candy, bubble gum. Like, I love all those sweet, sugary scents. This one's nice. I like it. You can definitely smell the coconut, but it's like a cakey coconut. Anyway, I'm going to say this. Like, Vernon, he gives so much information and so many details about so many things. It's almost like, now that could be, like I say, an autism thing and an ADD thing. However, it could also be him trying to just sort of overwhelm people to the point where they sort of get a little lost and confused about sticking to their own trains of thought and points they're trying to make. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he might be good at manipulating people. Okay. Now, a person going by the name, I saw you under the street light, writes, a few months after the murder, you were there, across the street from my house. I was in the front yard. When you noticed me, you left hurriedly between the Sims and the Shaddocks' house. It was you. So, what this person is suggesting is that Vernon returned to the scene of the crime to just gaze upon it, which is not unusual for killers. Here, Vernon says in response to that, I wish you had shot whoever it was and killed them. Then we would know who it was. It was not me. Now, next, some other person suggests an alternative theory, which I'm not going to go into, but I'm going to read Vernon's response. He says, my speculations about many possibilities for the murders are just me imagining what might have been. I have no personal knowledge of what happened. Yes, some of what I imagined is far-fetched. Just because 3 men in a car stopped to pick me up at Gibson Styles around 11:10 p.m. that night, it does not constitute evidence that they were even involved. It could be just a coincidence. But I know that I did not do it. I know that there cannot be any evidence that I was at the scene. I was never in possession of any gun that could have been the murder weapon. I am lucky that nobody manufactured evidence against me. That speaks well of the integrity and the quality of law enforcement in Leon County. Too bad that the investigation did not preserve evidence from the scene and track evidence to the killers. Instead of careful scientific investigation, they treated it like a TV show. They gathered a list of local suspects and tried to solve it like a Sherlock Holmes or Perry Mason story. It's a good thing that they learned from those mistakes, or Ted Bundy would still be loose today. Lesson learned the hard way. If this was still the old Wild West days, then I would have been one more innocent person lynched from a tree. I would love to see somebody from Mindhunters, from the FBI criminal profiling teams, do a profile on this case, and also maybe analyze Vernon. Now it just goes on to a lot of other people commenting, and you can see by the comments the years kind of going on. And I'm seeing even comments from 2019, so that may have been it for Vernon commenting. Let me continue on here. He did, later on in 2016, at the beginning of August, he did respond to somebody and wrote, thanks for the correction. I'm too introverted to get out and yell at people driving by. It must have been someone else. And he said, everywhere that I wrote Dodge Valiant, I should have written Plymouth Valiant. So he's correcting himself. And then it's like, all of a sudden he's back on it again. So this is again at the beginning of August in 2016. He says, for those of you who have not yet looked at the documentary of the Sims murders by FSU student Kyle Jones, go to your Facebook, click on the globe, and search 641 Muriel Court. Scan down the page and you will find the YouTube video. This is the older version and has not yet been replaced with the video that includes my interview. Time is running out to see that version of Kyle Jones's video. It will soon be replaced with another video which includes me talking to Kyle at Pass-a-Grille Beach. The video revealed something to me that I did not know about. In the interview, excuse me, with three women who were young girls living near my house on Von Seal at the time of the murders, they spoke of seeing Vernon looking out his kitchen window towards the front of the house, the Von Seal Ave side. The window was actually our dining room window on the Von Seal side of our house. There is a solid brick wall that goes up to the height of my nose, and above that are glass windows without curtains or blinds, not needed because of the height of the windows. The person that they saw and thought was Vernon Jr. was a bit darker than I am, had no red spots of acne, had thicker lips than me, a larger nose, tufts of hair curling up from the ends of his eyebrows, and was about 100 pounds heavier than me, and was 30 years older than me. It was my dad. Still, they were sure that it was Vernon Jr. looking at them, and he was there for hours. He could be there many different days. It was not me. That spot was my dad's favorite drinking spot. Nobody else in the family would take his spot. He would fill a 12-ounce tumbler with whiskey, no ice, no water, and no mixer. He would look out the front window and finish off the 12 ounces of whiskey and then go fill it up again and drink some more. He was a happy drunk. He would continue until he passed out. I'm sure that he was too drunk to know what he was looking at, but he enjoyed getting drunk and looking out the window. When they talked about seeing his face from the nose up and looking out that window, I knew that they did not recognize me on sight, since I knew that I would not take my dad's drinking spot. They thought that my dad was me, but we are quite different in looks. That made me realize that the prowler reported to be looking at the Sims girl was possibly not just a made up vicious lie, like I thought that it was, but possibly only a mistaken identity of some stranger who was never reported to the police in time to get caught. The undercover dog patrols did not catch him. I wish the police had caught him. Then the mistaken identity would become obvious. And again, around the same time, he responds to someone saying, they bought the house next door after Herman Stretch. He was in the Austrian army during World War II, and Dad loved to get him to yodel for visitors. For my Aunt Edith Chapman, who died of cancer later. He drank a lot. When he was near passing out, he went to bed. It was amazing to see how much he could drink. Even when he was under house arrest for a DUI conviction, he would drink and look out the dining room window. He couldn't take off the locked ankle tracking device, but would get Mother to buy him 2 cases of bourbon whiskey so that he always had an open case and a full case on hand. I.W. Harper was his favorite, with Southern Comfort a close second. I don't know why, but alcoholics have their favorite spots to drink, and they follow the same drinking rituals. Some have a favorite bar stool, others have a favorite easy chair. Dad had his favorite spot and favorite glass. Someone asked him which Lover's Lane he went to with Charlie that night, and he said Dog Lake. And the friends of the Sims said, why not Styles Pond and the dirt road? It was closer and very familiar to you and Charlie. The story about the Lover's Lane makes Charlie look like a liar, because she said she drove from the movie to the drop-off and straight home. And she said it was 10:55 when she got home. I wonder what Charlie thinks about what you're saying and how it makes her look. And what she would say if she saw the quote about homicidal Charlie. Maybe Charlie needs to do her own interview and tell her side of this. And Vernon responds with, in the mid-60s, the woods around the Styles Pond was inhabited by homeless Vietnam veterans with PTSD. It was a dangerous place and never a lover's lane. And Friends of Sims says, but Charlie liked to go there, didn't she, to Bird's Woods? She buried that box of letters and poems there, right? And Vernon says, no. And Friends of Sims says, I wonder if Charlie will recall this one. You, her, sitting in her car, watching the deputies drain Styles Pond, and sharing a private moment, a private joke at the deputy's expense. It was pretty funny, wasn't it? So you know what that means. And they go on to say, then there were other silly details, like who checked in cold blood out of the library. They were looking in the wrong place again. So that sounds like Friends of Sims is Charlie. So it gets even more interesting. And then somebody called Justice is Coming says, Vernon, you stated earlier that you and Mary Charles were at Levi Park. Now it's Dog Lake? Which is it? So Vernon responds with both. Levi Park around 7 p.m., then at the movie, then Dog Lake after the movie, and then arriving back in the neighborhood after the murders were committed. Justice for Joy writes, Vernon, just to help you clear your name, I was wondering if you could remember around what time you went to the movies. What movie? What movie theater? Vernon replies with, travel east on Monticello from Gibbs or travel west on Monticello from Monroe to the bottom of the hill. Turn south on Boone Boulevard at the bottom of the hill. In 20 yards, you are at the location of the dam. Continue south and you are going through what used to be Styles Pond. After Styles Pond was drained, the earth dam was bulldozed over to make the roadbed for Boone Boulevard. So I guess he's describing where some of these places are. And then someone called Chris writes, oh my goodness, I was just wondering what branch of law enforcement you guys work for that continue to quiz this man about a crime that happened 50 years ago. And I feel sure he has already answered plenty of these same questions all of those years ago. I, for one, can't even tell you what movies I watched 10 years ago, let alone 50 years ago. You guys need to leave this case to the proper authorities and stop with all of this. If you think for a minute you're going to help solve this case, then you need to think again. Even with a confession, law enforcement needs evidence to prove a case. There's been numerous cases over the years of people confessing to crimes that later it was found there was no way that the person could have done it. So not sure what you guys with all the questions are trying to prove. But from where I'm sitting, this is harassment to continue this and really makes me wonder what your motives are. I really wonder if and when someone is arrested for this crime, and it's not who you guys think it is, if all of you are going to be willing to apologize. I feel sure you'll all be ready to proclaim you knew it all along, if it is who you thought, though. By the way, I don't know Vernon, nor did I know the Sims. And somebody called Bonita Springs replies and says, hey, Chris, fuck off. Leave this to the locals and mind your own business. This is professional government work. Piss off. So now you got people arguing. I might like to go and check out the area when I go to Florida to visit my daughters who don't live too far from here. All right, some of these comments are from other people and they just don't really apply. And they're really getting lengthy. Somebody writes, I was one of Joy's close friends. I moved from Tally several years after this happened. I have no way of watching the documentary since I live out of state now. I would love to be able to see it. This horrific act is one that so many of us that lived through that time will never be able to forget. The pain of losing a good friend is almost as if it just happened. I do not know how anyone's brain lets you do what they did and still live with themselves. It is just beyond comprehension. I only pray that no one will allow someone to get away with such a cold-blooded murder for the sake of politics. These people did not deserve to be butchered and have it be swept under the carpet. I think all of the family, friends, and loved ones of this family deserve justice and closure. And Vernon replies to her and says, no, they did not deserve to be, and this is in November of 2016 by this point. No, they did not deserve to be murdered the way that they were. No one should get away with murder because of political connections. There should never be a cover-up of known murders or child molesters. I assure you that I am neither. I had nothing to do with the Sims murders. I did not know any of the Sims. I did not even know that Joy Sims existed until after the murders. I did not stalk or molest her. Voyeurism claims against me are false. Child molestation charges were never made, and claims of the issuing of an arrest warrant for me based on child molestation charges are false and without foundation. There would be official records of an investigation and warrant if either was made, and the warrant would still be enforceable. There is no more motive for me to murder the Sims. Any stories about me that suggest anything like that are pure fiction or a mistaken identity. I was never in their house. I was on a date with my gothic girlfriend at the time. They were murdered. My fingerprints were not in their house. In 1989, the FDLE had an interview with me and took a palm print to go with the fingerprints. They never told me about the stories that Mary Charles gave to Larry Campbell in 1987. I did not know about that interview until 29 years after she spoke to Larry. I never had a .38 handgun like the one I used on like the one used on them. Psychological slip. My DNA cannot be on anything found at the crime scene, and that is why I gave a voluntary DNA sample to Sergeant Dawn Dennis on this past September 12th. The results of comparing my DNA to the DNA found on evidence at the scene will clear me when it comes in. It may take a few more months to finish the work, but I know my DNA cannot be there. Hopefully, that's interesting that they took his DNA and in 2016. The results of comparing my DNA to the DNA found on evidence at the scene will clear me when it comes in. It may take a few more months to finish the work, but I know my DNA cannot be there. Hopefully, the murders will be found based on the new technology which has recovered DNA from the articles which were at the crime scene. I do not deserve the rumors, gossip, and hurtful claims which have been made about me these past 50 years. Okay. I'm going to read this last comment by Vernon, and then I'm going to call it a night because I've still got a little bit of a stack to go through here. So, this comment was made on November 28th, 2016, which is my birthday. The DNA tests which will clear me were not available until recently. I gave my voluntary DNA sample to Sergeant Dawn Dennis of the Leon County Sheriff's Office this past September 12th. The results should be in within a few months. If I am telling the truth, then the results will clear me. If I am lying, then the results will get me 3 death sentences. Somebody called Vernon is a murderer replied to that comment almost a year later on June 27th of 2017 at 5:12 in the AM and said, "We know you and Morticia did it, and it's only a matter of time until you get done for it, you crazy bastard." Okay, I'm going to stop there. There are still some more comments to go through. As you can see, I told you this was a very lengthy case to talk about. And I do think these things are all relevant, and relevant to, obviously, since Vernon is one of the prime suspects. Vernon and Charlie were the only two suspects. And since he talked so much publicly about the case, I felt it was relevant to talk about and share. And this isn't the only place where he talks publicly about it, so I will be bringing more up in the future as we continue looking at this case. And I should say, at the end of this, I am just looking at the case. Obviously, I do not know if he is guilty or innocent. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And I'm just sharing with the research that I've done. So, obviously, I might have some feelings as we go through this, and maybe at some points I might think he's guilty. At other points, I might think he's innocent. I'm just a regular Joe, just researching the case. And I certainly don't know. So, anyway, that's it. It's getting kind of late. It's 10 to 11 here in Louisiana. It was a gorgeous day today. Sunny, 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 so nice. Warm, very nice day. And I'm hoping it's that way again tomorrow. It looks like we might have a big storm here on Wednesday. We shall see. Um, but as I say, I'm excited to have my new software, so I do plan to stream again. Maybe even tomorrow during the day and tomorrow night. You never know. We'll see how it goes. But I should be streaming tomorrow at some point. And please make sure to give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't. And share with your friends if you think they might be interested. And please try and join me tomorrow. I hope everybody has a good sleep, a nice rest, a great day at work tomorrow if you're working tomorrow during the day. And that's it. I will catch up with you tomorrow. And don't let the demons bite. And be loving, be kind, be compassionate, be generous, be forgiving. Don't bully people. Tell your loved ones everything you want to say because you never know which day is their last day or yours. And until next time, I bid you adieu. That's it, guys. I'm out. Sleep well. Love you all very much. Poof!